Hello, and welcome again to the Inland Empire Aces. I'm Gabe.
Mitch.
And I'm Trevor.
Today we're going to explore talk about what's going on with the upcoming hyperspace trial. And what else do we have on the docket today, Trevor?
The other one, we're going to talk about Worlds. All the details just got announced. And then our last topic will be talking about the list that Mitch has been running in the last week, the list of the week.
Excellent. All right, so let's get started with the news that we had from FFG. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what they have planned for Worlds?
Sure. So they released the dates. It's going to be October 16th through the 20th. A little bit different location this year. It's not going to be at the FFG Game Center. It's going to be at the River Center in St. Paul. The first day on Wednesday is going to be the Coruscant Invitational, and then they've introduced the Last Chance Qualifier. So if you didn't get your Worlds invite through a hyperspace trial or a system open, you can just still go to Worlds, and if you make top 64 out of about 400 people, you'll get your invite to day 1A or day 1B, which would be the Thursday and the Friday. And then Saturday is going to be the X-Wing Finals, and then Sunday is going to be the 2020 qualifier. So you'll have plenty of X-Wing even if you didn't get your invite, because they'll also do side events throughout the whole weekend.
That's what's really cool, that you can go to the Last Chance Qualifier, fall flat on your face, and still have a fun week of X-Wing doing these side events.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a really fun weekend. It being at a different location this year is going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot bigger. Destiny is also going to be there, so they should have plenty of room.
Yeah, I was a little worried when they said that there's 400 seats for the qualifier, but if it's a different location, that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to FFG Game Center?
I have not yet.
It's really nice. The playroom area is, I would say, it's about half the size of a normal gymnasium. So it's still a big area, but it's not big enough to hold 400 people. So that's why they have to always split the days and everything.
Right.
And then the Last Chance Qualifier, just if you wanted to go, it's going to be $25. It's going to be on sale in about a month. And then also, if you already have a Worlds invite, you can claim your seat today. Just go online. They have a form. Make sure to get that in by September 1st.
Sweet.
And then our other kind of announcements, like you mentioned, the hyperspace trial for GMI is going to be on June 8th, and the details are on Facebook. So if you just go into the SoCal X-Wing events, the details will be all there. And then the other announcement is TMK. We've started doing a tabletop simulator tournament every Saturday, or not every Saturday, that'd be way too much. The first Saturday of every month. And so there's a link to the Discord in our show notes. So if you're watching live, you can just type in exclamation mark and notes, and you just click the link in there, and then they'll be on the notes for like the podcast when you guys see it on Podbean. But typically what we're going to do is 4 rounds on TTS, which we have all the details, like how to create the rooms and everything, so it tries to go as smoothly as possible. And what it's meant to do is, so people that can't really go out on Saturdays, they're either far away from the game store, or they're tied down with like work or anything like that on the weekends, this gives them a chance to actually participate in a tournament. So we already have half a dozen people signed up for this Saturdays, and then hopefully it continues to grow as the months go on.
How much does it cost to get in on that?
$5. And what the $5 does is pretty much allows us to do store credit. So a lot of times, like for myself, I go to 1 or 2 major tournaments a year, and there's like never any store credit involved in those big ones, whether it's like Campaign Against Cancer or like Minoc Open and such. I don't get to go to those store kit tournaments anymore, and a lot of people are in that same situation where they only go to those big tournaments without store credit.
Yeah,
so
it's been making things a lot easier for me with that.
Yeah. So we figure other people are in the same situation. So They get store credit plus, like this month, we're throwing the winner a Hal Runner alt-art card from the FFG kit. And then my goal is a hyperspace trial. If I get like the templates and such, I don't really like the templates that much, so I can just throw that in the price support for one of these months coming up, and kind of help get other people wanting to play.
Cool. Yeah, I'm actually looking around for jobs, and they're in some of them are in really remote locations, and I see my future doing a lot of more online X-Wing.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
So speaking of those hyperspace templates and such, let's kind of try to talk about how we can earn them. Mitch, you want to talk about a little bit for the hyperspace trial prep and how you're prepping?
So, I mean, I play tournaments like all the time, and just I probably play X-Wing like 3 times a week at least. So I don't know. I just get tons of reps in.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, just fly. Pick a list you like, fly it tons. And if you know your list well and you've seen enough, nothing really catches you off guard. There are some meta. If you don't have tons of free time to play all the time, though. Not having kids yet, so if you got try to focus on some of the meta monsters that are running around. Hyperspace is a little bit better and extended about that right now. There's not no real dominant lists. Some of the top contenders you're going to see is your Rebel Beef, Beef Wedgington, or stuff like that. You're going to see Double Upsilon Kylo.
Love that one.
Inferno Swarm.
Oh yeah,
Hyperspace Legal Imperial Aces builds. I know it was like Vader, Soontir Duchess.
That's been the popular one.
I've actually been wanting to fly that one myself just to play around with it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, like Duchess will have like seismic charges or prox mines on there. It can really throw you off with seeing like Imperial Aces carry something else like that in the list. Gives it some diversity in how it can actually do some damage.
Yeah. Double Jedi with Torrents is a common one. That one actually does pretty well.
It does, yeah.
Anakin with double reposition is stupid hard to chase down. Kylo quick draw Tavison, or just quick draw and Tavison, whatever the hell else you want with it. I haven't seen a ton of that. And then Resistance 5s. I think it's called like Danger Zone or something. But it's really good for late maneuverability, lots of firepower before most lists can fire.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a specific matchup, see what you guys think. Inferno Swarm versus Rebel Beef.
Inferno Swarm all the way.
Who wants that joust more?
Inferno Swarm.
Yeah, you never joust the TIE Swarm. That's like one of the rules of X-Wing.
So even with Rebel Beef, you're like...
Well, Rebel Beef...
The only thing that dares joust a TIE Swarm is T-Sim proton bombs.
That's true.
I got to remember, Rebel Beef tops out around I3 except for Wedge. And unless Wedge is carrying Swarm Tactics, but even then, most of the list is all shooting. You got Cassian at 3.
They get to I4 now.
Yeah, they got I4, but even the same initiative, the TIEs, they got the Swarm Tactics on HAL typically, so they got 2 I5s, plus all the 4s, they got Wampa shooting at I5 with Swarm Tactics combo with 3 dice, plus Gideon's 3 dice. They're going to eliminate whatever they consider the most dangerous target that first turn, and you don't really have that much of a choice. And then the target that you want to eliminate versus the TIE Swarm, it gets a free pass. So you're gonna have to make sure your dice, your reds hold up. Yep, because of Iden.
Right.
So like for myself, just really quick for like myself, since I'm running the Vader mini Swarm, I don't really have that good of a matchup versus Rebel Beef. I'm like 50-50. It's like a coin toss. That's mainly because Vader doesn't, on that initial joust, he's just a 3-die attack. And Inferno Swarm, they already have a 3-die attack in Wampa on the initial joust, plus Gideon's 3-die. So I'm missing out on some offense that initial joust, plus my academies are at 1. So that makes a big difference. So in that matchup particular, like the Inferno Swarm is much better to handle Rebel Beef.
And most beef, especially if they got Cassian and Leia, they can turn on Vader in a no time flat and present him with modded shots.
Yeah.
The big.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's the big. I want to hear what the big thing is.
The big reason why I have to bring three of the big rocks is because of the other swarm matchups, such as like the Rebel Beef and then like versus the TIE Swarm. I can navigate a little bit better, and because I lose out on that initial joust, I need those 3 rocks to help me carry the next 2 or 3 turns, and then prevent a better jousting opportunity at the beginning for me. So that
sounds strong.
That's kind of what helps me make sure it's a 50-50 matchup.
I was going to ask with Wedge in this Rebel Beef list, right? Sometimes people will understandably be cagey with Wedge and come in on a flank or whatever. As a TIE Swarm, if you're an Inferno Swarm, do you go ahead and just mow down, joust their 3 ships while Wedge comes on the flank and turn on him when you get a chance? Or how much damage is he going to do to you if you ignore him?
That's interesting. Mitch would probably have a better answer to that one.
The correct answer is you don't let Wedge go to the end game. He's kind of like killer, but not really a true ace himself. If he can make it end, relatively unscathed to the end game, he's just bigger and meaner than most aces, and he hits harder. And he's got enough initiative to, scare him out or trade shots lethally with an ace. Most canny beef players are not going to offer him up in the initial joust. They're going to make you pay for targeting him. So, like when you're flying against him, whoever the beef player hands you first, go into that guy.
Take a big bite out of that beef, yeah.
When Wedge comes into play, drop what you're doing and smite Wedge. Like you're about to continue sinking in. Even if you get your Braylon or whatever down to a hull, and you Wedge has got coming in where he can't bail. Drop what you're doing for Wedge. Yeah. You'll pay dividends in the end game. Rather have end game versus any other ship in that list.
Cool, makes sense.
Then
I guess
No, you can go ahead.
While we're on the topic of Inferno Swarm, I did want to plug a little bit. At the Hyperspace Trial, we just got news that we have a really cool alt art triple card that has the 3 members of the Minnow Squad that are featured in Battlefront 2, Gideon, Hask, Del Mico, and Iden Versio. And if you bring a mat to help supply mats for, then that's how you get that card. Look for more information on that, but it's really cool.
You want me to throw it up on the Twitch feed?
Sure.
Okay, I'll save it. I'll throw it up on there.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
All right. What else do we have here? I guess now that we talked about some of the heavy hitters, things that you're likely to see, how many reps should you have for the list you choose? Because maybe you'll choose one of these popular ones, or maybe you try to do something. I mean, if I was playing, I'll be streaming. But if I was playing, I would be doing something with lots of strikers. So
I would say you'd want something with at least 24 reps. I mean, if you want to make a serious go at the top tables, you want to be practiced with your list. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't have any big monsters like any other one that you can just pick up in the list. As long as you understand the principles, kind of flies itself. Most of these, you got to know the ins and outs. If you fly Rebel Beef, it's got a ton of trick plays, so you got to know how to use those trick plays for good effect. Anything involving Upsilons definitely requires a level of pre-planning a bit above the norm. Low and wallowy. So if you kind of try to fly them like a regular ship, you're going to find out that you just don't have any time on target. So you kind of want to take it slow with those guys and concentrate more on zoning than chasing. Just point the arcs where you don't want them to be.
Yeah, I agree. I was just looking at this list we have. Well, we talked about the common threats. There's no CIS representation.
They haven't had any huge success recently, except for the double infiltrators, which we'll get to. But they haven't made enough. Like, they've only had 1 or 2 occurrences where they've actually been played, which is a big reason. Since there's 7 factions out there, one faction is going to be the least played, right? Just naturally.
Yeah.
And CIS has the big. You have to invest a lot of money into it. You have all the Vulture droids and everything. So it's just they're going to be naturally the one people play less. And
I do want to say, though, that in the tournaments I've gone to, I've seen several of the Vulture Swarm locally.
Mhm.
So I think you're going to want to have an answer for that. Because, a huge swarm of ships with energy shell charges is deadly.
And no, definitely, it's something. I think it's something that's kind of like a gatekeeper, but not a big winner right now. Just
that makes sense. Yeah,
something that you need to be able to handle whatever comes up in the jank tank in the first round or 2 before, the field gets separated. Or a lot of a lot of people, like, you might see good players go down if they just pick up the net list and fly it. And they've only practiced against other meta monsters. They don't know what to do when they face the bot swarm or something like that going on.
Yeah, you got to have a list that's good versus the field, not just versus the meta matchups. Because those first couple rounds, like, if you don't have a store champ by that first round, you don't know. It could be like anyone with any type of list. It could be the one
quad
list
jumper
out.
spam.
Yeah, it could be quad jumper spam.
Well, I guess that's not even, that's extended. Never mind.
But
yeah.
Like, you could do something like that. Like, for instance, no one's planning against 4-star Vipers, and they get paired with Mitch the first round. They have no answer to that.
Yep.
Yeah, you thought you could get too extended to get away from 4 Phantoms.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts. Yeah, because the Star Vipers are just about as maneuverable in their own way. I mean,
it's basically quad Phantoms without the juke, the being broken on juke.
Yeah. Oh man,
fair.
I hope you make stream, because I want to watch that and I can commentate on it.
I'll see what I can do. I'm definitely gonna try and win that.
So should we move on to obstacles? Like, what are we looking at for choices here in the meta? I like your observation there. I'd say, Trevor, so brilliant to bring Vader Mini Swarm and say large obstacles, because I have Mini Swarm, you have Major Swarm, I win.
Yeah, and then also Vader likes rocks. Like, he likes the gas clouds, but the rocks, people don't expect him to go over the rock and afterburners off of it. So it's like one of those things. Like, people will expect it with the gas cloud, but they won't really. Like, it won me, or almost won me a game on Tabletop Simulator by doing that 3-hearting over a rock out of arcs of 3 ships to then get a shot at a ship that was almost dead. So it really comes to a surprise to people.
It's neat.
And different obstacles suit different types of lists. So think of it as another area where you get to complete your the selections for your list. If your ships are nimble and can maneuver, pick rocks. Make your opponents your opponent might not be also nimble, and make them try to fight it. If you've got tech that lets you get around rocks, or Kira, another opportunity to kind of screw over your opponent. Rocks also have some of the greatest variety between large and small. You could really open the field by taking like the 3 tiniest rocks. Mustache one, another one that's not much bigger. And I think there's like a third, moderately tiny rock. Less than a third the area of the 3 biggest rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Really open the field up if you want. Whereas most of the other obstacles are kind of the same across them. A lot of variety there. Debris is really good if you don't want to you can't maneuver around asteroids. You can resist stress, and you may be trying to play with trick shot because gas clouds will shut you down, or they'll take all the fun out of trick shot at any rate. Han Pilot loves these guys. Also, Kanan Jarrus and Nyan Num play very favorably with them as well. Types of things that are going to win with Debris is fat turrets. Those in your hounds can circle around them, fire through them without losing much in the way of firepower, or even gaining firepower if you have trick shot.
Yeah, I've been really surprised at the, like for instance, Jack Mooney and a couple other ones I've been running, like the Han, Jake, that they didn't take Debris, because giving Han essentially Dash's ability at I-6 is pretty good. Like, he goes over the debris with no consequence, because Kanan can just take away the stress. He has a 1 in 64 chance of actually taking damage because of Han's ability. It just seems like too good to pass up. So I've been really surprised, like, some of those players haven't been taking Debris. I'd be kind of curious of their reason why they wouldn't.
Have they been taking...
Maybe they just want to make the game harder for their opponent.
That's the only thing I think of. But like, I feel like it would make the game a lot harder on your opponent when you have a ton more of the board to play with. With the turret, you can go left, right. Doesn't matter. Your arc's gonna be pointing wherever you need it.
Last thing is gas clouds. Those are definitely they're the obstacle you pick when you struggle with maneuverability or base size. So if you're running, like, for example, dreadlocks or arc spam, seen like Luminara or Obi-Wan in 3 arcs. Those guys like gas clouds because they take up a ton of space. They have a hard time weaving through a dense thicket. It lets you move around without taking any penalties. Only downside is behind a gas cloud is nigh impossible to hit. That said, like, double reposition aces can also make some good use of gas clouds. And don't necessarily see yourself as stuck on picking 3 of the same. If I'm running aces, I actually kind of like to run 2 large rocks plus a single gas cloud. You can center up the gas cloud, and that provides another out for your aces. When you're engaging someone, you can go, okay, I don't like this engagement. I'm going to go duck behind this cloud. Can't hurt me.
Interesting.
That reminds me, because at CAC, I was doing that a lot. In one of my games, I set up the gas cloud at the corner to the side of where I started my swarm and Vader. And so I knew his three aces, because it was Vader, Soontir, Duchess, and of course he had the bid on me. So Vader was moving before his Vader and Soontir. So what I did is I just bolted to the gas cloud knowing he was going to come in at my Vader, and then Vader just hid behind that gas cloud for a couple turns. I don't even think he took a shield, with 3 ships shooting at him,
Wow.
with that gas cloud protection and such. And then I just went right over it, and it didn't matter. It was one of those things where kind of setting those obstacles, whether it's debris, rocks, or gas clouds, you kind of need a strategy. You can't just place them wherever. You can, but it's more effective if you kind of have a strategy going into it.
Yeah, and you have to be careful because your opponent can make you think you're putting it somewhere you're okay with, but it falls into their plans.
Those are the best games. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, but I have like some where like I'm setting up a plan for my rocks, and then like my opponent, like 2 or 3 of my opponent's placements were the spot I was thinking of putting my next rock.
Yeah, you're like screwed.
Yeah, there's games where I'll play against Mitch, and it's like I set the ships down. I'm like, I already lost this game because based on how the rocks were, I'm like, crap. Like Mitch, that's one of Mitch's strengths playing is being able to see where to put those rocks and have a game plan and how to set up. Like his turn 0 is probably one of the strongest out there.
That's where you win the game.
Yep.
So on that note of, and in my opinion, unless you have a really good idea of how to use gas clouds, don't bring them. because your opponent probably is, at least for me, my opponents, every time I brought glass clouds, use them far more effectively than my squads have, or that I've been able to. I don't know.
I would agree. Don't bring gas clouds unless you need them.
Yeah. A question there, because you were talking about big, hard to maneuver ships. I think that gas clouds are also wrong for double epsilon, because part of what they want to do is corral. And if you leave those lanes open for example, low health aces to play around with, then your ability to corral is drastically weakened. What do you think?
That's an interesting one because, like, let's say if they brought debris and it's Tavison, then it turns his ability off.
Totally.
But rocks, he's not shooting, so it kind of effectively turns his ability
I
off.
still think I think Upsilon's actually do okay with
You think
gas.
so?
They have the firepower to hit through it too. I mean, a 4 dice, 5 dice attack, clouds die in free flip. You still got to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
I would play
The
around.
Ace, the ace can afford to go through it, but they don't want to go through the cloud because then they lose. Unless they're Vader with thrusters, they're losing their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Actionless ace is often a dead one.
Well, also Jedi can do that.
Right. That's what I was. Yeah.
So,
I've been bit by Jedi so much with that trick. I'm so over gas clouds. I'm like, rocks. I need rocks.
So now that we got kind of, we went through the meta lists, we went through how much you should practice your list, kind of obstacles. What do you guys think you're going to do for yourself? Like, what are your goals going into the weekend? Gabe, you're not actually playing, right?
I'm not playing. My goal is to have the best commentary ever, and you guys want to listen, even though Gold Squadron podcast is out there and the Team Covenant, whatever, Tulsa.
Now, are you guys live streaming, or are you just recording and then putting up later?
We're going to be live streaming Saturday for sure. I believe with commentary, and I believe Sunday it's going to be live streaming but not commentated. And we can maybe go back and add commentary later and put those up on YouTube.
And that won't be on the Team Mech Killers one. It will be on the Warlock X-Wing?
Warlock Squadron. Yeah, Warlock X-Wing.
Okay. So make sure to give that a follow so you guys get notified. For myself, my goal is pretty much to earn dice. Like, I don't care too much about the other prizes. Like, the templates would be nice so I can use them as prize support. That's just about it. There's no way I can go to Worlds, so... don't care too much about that. So pretty much dice is all I care about because then I can try to trade some, and hopefully I'm trying to convince Deegan for some of my World's dice back, but that's probably won't happen. He didn't even respond to my message.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to win the damn thing, but I don't even really care about the dice. I got the regionals dice from last year, and those are kind of my favorites. I kind of saw the pictures of those and went, meh.
Mm-hmm.
If I get them.
Well, the big
I'm
problem
gonna get out of rim dice, so
the big problem with them is the attack dice and the green dice are the same color. So like, if you can just easily pick them up and start rolling the wrong color dice with them both being black. I feel like it would be kind of annoying playing.
They're the prettiest dice in my opinion that we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know who to go sell them to if I get them.
Okay, great. We'll see if I have any money for it because I'm saving up for Epic, man. I can't wait.
It'll definitely be the day. We're on to list of the week, right? So we're looking at the Sith Lords here.
Well, Mitch, what was your goal?
Oh, he said win it.
Oh, win the
whole damn thing.
Oh, okay.
Fucking dice. So, I don't know. That might be my problem. I don't want it enough. So, list of the week. We're talking Sith Lords here. This has made a couple of splashes, but definitely not a major meta staple. It's by far probably one of the cheapest CIS lists to get into. The core of it is Maul and Count Dooku. Both ships are going to have hate, proton torps, hull upgrade, and jamming beam because free. And then Maul's also going to take Chancellor Palpatine, the DRK-1 probe droids, and Dooku will have Scimitar, Tidal, and Seismic Bombs. Just between this kit here, this gets you to 189 points. So you've still got a few more options to customize it. I've run the version with Seasoned Navigator on Maul, and it's really good for protecting his sloops in case you get blocked. You can, duck out into a bank or straight move. Grievous is also another good piece of kit. The one I ran had in CAC had Seasoned Navigator on Maul and Grievous on Dooku. One of the things I've been finding though is everybody's trying to kill Maul first. Imagine that nobody wants to fire at the 3 dice infinite focus. So
yeah,
I'm thinking I've been working around with some new projects in the test bed. So my latest one's been Informant on Dooku, just to make him a little bit more annoying while he's cloaked. You just slap the listening device on their biggest ace and drive a cloaked up Dooku in the middle of it until they get annoyed to actually shoot him, and if they don't, you just sloop behind them and start proton torpedoing them until they go away. And then Dooku on Maul, it gives him a little bit of extra survivability. One of the big things to keep in mind with Dooku is that you don't have to spend his charge immediately. So you can afford to just let their regular shots hit your shields. And then when you spend Dooku, you can cancel any hit or crit in that attack, not just, the first one. So this gives you the option to neutralize a inopportune crit down. So, if your opponent's got, if you've only got like 2 shields left and you get hit for 3, consider saving Dooku for another shot if it's all hits.
Yeah, so that Dooku only works if you have full force, right? Is that the card?
I'm sorry, General Grievous, my bad. But
okay.
He's got 1 charge. If you take 2 or more hits, you can spend the charge to cancel 1 hit or crit on an attack.
Is that a regenerating charge?
It regenerates when a friendly ship is destroyed. Red, the other ship in your list.
Other ship, yeah, not great.
But it's 3 points, which is the same as a hull upgrade. So you're effectively getting a 1 point discounted shield upgrade.
There you go. Yeah,
requires multiple damage incoming, but it's pretty good. And sometimes they'll, in order to really get multiple uses, they got to shoot you enough, make you spend the general, then switch targets, kill the other guy, then come back to you. I've only recovered it once in all of my test games, so doesn't happen that often. But sometimes you can manage to kind of force your opponent to switch targets, just by getting somebody out of the way or blocking their turnaround moves.
Mm-hmm.
Seismics are very good for this list. You're flying around 2 fat front arc ships that are large, so seismics are good for opening up the field. They also boost your damage potential. They kind of make they really punish people that try to chase or turn around at the wrong time. I think at Campaign against Cancer, I pretty much my last match against Aces got won because of a timely seismic bomb from dropped a seismic bomb onto a debris, a gas cloud. Vader Talon rolled around, basically taloned around right next to the cloud. Got some favorable dice on a range 3 shot to finish off Vader.
Nice.
But just in general, it just opens up the field, gives you room to move. The probe droids are another key component. They provide distractions for people. Some people get a little bit tilted when they see what they can do and or chase the drones. You'll get a little bit lucky if you get an opponent to do that. Their key things is they let you basically target lock even with initiative disadvantage. During the planning phase or the end phase, you launch them out using a 3-speed, and then during the next system phase, they can move again with a 2-speed maneuver, the 2 straight or 2 bank. This gives you a good bit of reach. Like I think it's close to like range 4 or 5 for the target lock from where you were at the end phase. So you can do it, throw that guy out there, advance, and then still pick up a target lock. So it allows some definite trick surprise
cool.
plays.
And then what they do too with that, with having Jam on Dooku, right? Because he has the title. Dooku can, or you just have the probe droids out there kind of hanging around, and like versus like Miles in particular with Vader, like I can't Talon roll or K-turn because he could just jam my lock off at any moment if I get anywhere near that. So you just kind of leave it as a threat out there, just moving it around, and I can't get too close.
Yeah, I usually fire off one early game to assist with target locks on the approach.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the other one either basically right until I think Maul's about to get killed, or just if I need to set up a jam, because basically you can launch it any 3 template out the front or back of Maul,
mm-hmm.
and then when you set out the drone, it does the 3 move, then it also does the 2 move, so it gives like a range 2 or 3 bubble from Maul that Dooku can jam from at any moment.
Yeah.
A lot of ships don't like it, especially if they're a lot of people are trying to ignore the count and then just go for Maul. They'll run away from the count. They'll think that they're safe from jams. But even in the extended meta, I was messing up. The one with Palpatine and Jendin doesn't mind it as much because if you jam the lock off, you can just pick it right back up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my last round opponent was they had and Vinder, but without coordinate support or Jendin support, he'd come in. I'd come in, throw a jam token on him, and then he can't even get a lock if he wants one.
Mm-hmm.
It turns off gunboats. Phantoms really hate it. The drone out there and just turn off Whisperer's decloak.
Well, because you can give up your action to jam, because you got you have expertise. Like if you ever played 1.0, you have expertise. Like the downfall of hate is you have to take damage, right? But if your ship's already designed to take damage, they got how many shields they got, Mitch? They got 5?
4 shields and 6 hull.
Yeah.
And then this list runs them with hull upgrades, so you got 7 hulls. So that's basically 10 damage that you can take without dying that can all become force points.
Because if you didn't have hate, you'd be taking that damage anyways, right? So now you're punishing the opponent for shooting them. You're giving them those mods.
I had Maul spend 7 force in one turn.
Yeah. Which is like having 7 calculates.
That's insane.
Yeah, he spent 2... no, it might have been 8 force, because he spent 2 force... for a double tap, spent 2 force modifying, shot 3 times, stressed up everybody that shot him, and I think he also flipped a die in there somewhere too.
Well, because explain so the listeners know, how does hate work with Palpatine, for instance?
Okay, so the text on hate says whenever your ship suffers damage, regain 1 force for each damage suffered, right? So if you take hits, your force goes back up. Palpatine says after you take damage, 0 to 2, you can spend a force to assign a stress to your attacker. This really gives him massive. If you can get Maul to the end game, your opponent can forget K-turning.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to turn it off, and then you can K-turn behind them and eat torpedoes. And then on top of that, you've got free extra mods for flipping your dice. If you're playing with Dooku and he can either, remove his cloak token after being shot, or shoots you and hits, he can recloak or take another target lock. So he almost has that old school fire control system going. Fire force left over after he
So
shoots someone.
it sounded like this whole thing is very old school first edition, and I heard a lot of people.
It plays most similarly to Dengartel
yeah.
from 1.0, just you don't have turrets.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like similar to like a mixture of Dengar-Tel and Brobots. Kind of, you have the fixed arc like the Brobots. You got the double tap in there, kind of like similar like Dengar and the Brobots. It's the very mixture of the two. And then you get the bombs that the Brobots had. So it's kind of like all those type of
expertise.
You have all of those combined in this one now 2.0 list, mixed with hyperspace meta. The big downfall is, okay, people just like aren't playing it. Like when they do play it, like Duncan Howard went undefeated, Mitch went undefeated at Campaign Against Cancer. The other person that was running it, he went 5-1, right, Mitch?
Yeah, I actually didn't face him. I didn't get the mirror. Somebody else picked him off on the second to last round. But
so again, so they went 11-1 at CAC, and then they made system open cut, and so there's not very many of them, but the ones that do show tend to do very well.
You gotta really manage your target opponent. When I first started flying it, I got crushed pretty hard a couple times. It's easy to screw up your approach. If you dunk Maul in close into like a range 1 engagement off the bat, your opponent is gonna make you suffer for it.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like you have so many different abilities, so many different options, so many things that's happening every single step of the turn. The players that aren't doing well with it are the ones that haven't practiced and put the time in. Like for you, started to see the benefits of putting that practice and time in, just having the reps with it.
Yeah, definitely been playing a lot over the last couple of weeks. It's certainly a fun list to run. You're going to struggle against swarms because you don't have a ton of shots. And you only got 1 agility on Maul, so he can get ripped up pretty bad. Usually, at least something of an upside versus most swarms is a lot of them are lower initiative. So at least Dooku starts to get really fun if he's only facing a field of I1 and I2. TIE Swarm gets a little rough to play against, especially because Iden turns off proton torpedoes.
It's so good. Those proton torpedoes are really, I mean, a lot of times in the past there's been hesitation in bringing proton torpedoes on a ship that already has 3 attack dice. But these guys with only 2 ships in the list, they really leverage that well, and with the Force.
Well, it's because they double mod the protons, so they represent a very significant firepower upgrade. Most matches I tend to spend them quick. I think my final at CAC, it was pretty weird. I actually went to the last 2 ships before I ever actually fired a proton torpedo. Just because my opponent was good at staying out of proton torpedo range or not allowing me to take the target locks when I wanted to get the shots off. Or he was engaging me at range 1 so that I couldn't get the free crits.
And like when
I increase his damage output.
Yeah, and like when I faced the list, my opponent threw out that lock, pretty much just saying, "Okay, Vader, if you get an arc of me at any point, it's gonna be 4 dice." With the proton torps or at range 1, so I have to make sure that Vader's super careful, which is really hard when they have, for instance, like if I shoot Maul and he palps the stress on Vader, it becomes very predictable if I don't have afterburners set. So like it gets very difficult having that proton torpedo just as the threat to the list.
Definitely true. For it, you probably want to lead with Dooku. Generally, you want to keep him cloaked unless you can shoot first. You're willing to let him, lead with him. Most opponents aren't gonna take the bait. Punish him with a torpedo. But get him in the way, have him blocking stuff, have him snag a target lock and start throwing jam tokens. one of the things I find is most people decline to shoot him. So I'll get up in there, block something at range 1, and then on the following turn I can decloak and sloop behind, or decloak and K. And I've got basically nothing to worry about because I know that they're focused on Maul. And then Dooku just sits behind people, going ham with his load of proton torpedoes, kind of make him pay for chasing Maul. Maul is definitely by far the easier target to kill, and he's probably your stronger endgame ship too, which is why.
Well, it's also like Dengar's ability. Sometimes you don't want to shoot him because you're going to load him up the next turn. Like if he's all force trained, you don't. It's tough, okay, I'll do the 1 damage, but then he regen that force, and then he regens the force at the end of the turn, then he's back up to 2 force, and now he's a threat again. So it's really hard, picking the right opportunities at shooting at which target you want to.
I'm not going to say I've never dropped a seismic bomb on an obstacle to get more force. That's been a thing.
That's funny. I could see that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about for obstacle selection with this list. This is probably one of the lists that makes better use out of gas clouds. Asteroids cost you too much for shots because with 2 ships, you got to make every shot count. You let your opponent get too many free turns, and you're just gonna run out of health. You need to spend all those force tokens before your opponent gives you more. Do pretty hard because you need your sloops. You need to be able to turn around and reorient that arc repeatedly. So that kind of pushes you in the gas clouds, and then you have the firepower to hit through them. The only thing is I would probably avoid firing a torpedo through the gas cloud because you don't have reload.
I would agree.
So unless you're going for a 1 hit point snipe, I'd probably avoid torpedoes through the gas clouds. Just take your regular shots.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So, are you thinking about bringing this to the hyperspace trial or the quad phantoms?
You mean Star Vipers, right?
Yes.
Star Phantoms.
They're both the same. Let's be real.
Yeah, I just don't have free evade tokens and juke.
Yeah.
But you
I don't know.
You got 2.5 actions a turn. It's the same. It's all good.
Yeah, I know. It's a hard call. Like I said, I really love the Star Vipers, but this list has been speaking to me on a personal level, so I'll have to leave that one up to a surprise.
So I think that's it for tonight, right?
Yeah, I don't think we have much else. Mostly just putting our nose to the grindstone, practicing for that the hyperspace trial.
Mm-hmm. And again, the hyperspace trial is going to be at GMI Games in Riverside on June 8th. So the first day is going to be at a school, right?
Yeah.
So
that'll be in the show notes, I think.
Yeah. So take a look at the show notes, and then we'll put the Facebook link and everything in there for you guys.
Yep. Any shout-outs, anybody?
Shout out to everyone that participated at Campaign Against Cancer and all my opponents. It was a fun day. What about you, Mitch?
Yeah, I got nobody paid me this week.
Yeah, I guess I just want to shout out to the local community because they're really great. I have had a really busy May, and so I haven't made it out to the store basically since the beginning of the month. And being able to just communicate and chat with everybody on Discord and throw ideas around has been really cool. So
keeps you in touch with the community. That's why I like it.
Yeah, it's really nice. Well, I guess that's it for us. We'll see you next time. I'm Gabe.
Mitch.
And I'm Trevor.
And remember, Kotan Sai.